Welcome to our new video. This is the Braun Series 5. We have reviewed this shaver for you and you find out everything you need to know in this video, so just stay tuned. Before we get to the practical part, we'll first give you an overview of the product in our features and technology section first. The Series 5 is a foil shaver. A rectangular blade block and the use of shaving foils to protect the skin characterize this type of shaver. With the Series 5 in particular, we have a shaving system with a total of 3 blades that can be moved independently from each other. Together with the shaving head, which is also movable, this allows the shaver to adapt to the contours of the face. The appliance can be used for both dry and wet shaving and is waterproof, so that it can also be used in the shower. As an additional feature, the shaver also has a blade change and cleaning indicator. Compared to other shavers on the market, the battery offers an acceptable performance, 50 minutes of shaving time on a full charge. It then takes a little longer, in other words, 60 minutes, to fully charge the battery again. If you're running low, the shaver also has a quick charge function. This means that you can charge for 5 minutes in order to get enough power to complete a short shaving cycle. You can track the battery status via the display, which shows 3 levels so that you have a rough idea of when the device needs to be connected to the power supply. Unfortunately, there is no mains operation. Accordingly, the shaver will not work when it is in charging mode. To prevent the battery from discharging accidentally, the device also has a key lock. Simply press and hold the on button for a few seconds to activate the locking mechanism. As far as the scope of delivery is concerned, we have a few useful things included with the Series 5. In addition to the power adapter and cleaning brush, we also get a protective cap for the blades. Unfortunately, the version we chose lacks a precision trimmer for fine trimming or pre-trimming. However, for all those who do not want to do without this feature, there are corresponding equipment variants available to buy, be it with a precision trimmer attachment, 3-day beard trimmer, or body groomer. Basically, there should be something for everyone. By the way, you can find all the links in the description below the video. You will find the product there as well, of course. So let's get into detail now. We took a closer look at the shaver. There's nothing to complain about in terms of workmanship. All parts fit neatly together and make a well-made impression. With Braun shavers in particular, you can even say that the products look a little more robust or sturdier than the rotary shavers from Philips, for example. The Series 5 also scores points with its slim design and rubberized handle, which makes the shaver feel good and secure in the hand. In terms of operation and handling, the shaver benefits from the fact that the blades and head are movable. As a result, it follows the contours well. This is not necessarily a fundamental advantage of foil shavers. In our opinion, rotary shavers adapt a little better to angled areas, such as the chin. Nevertheless, the Series 5 does make a good impression here thanks to its design, and also plays to the strengths of the foil shavers, meaning that it is particularly good for shaving sideburns or under the nose. In our opinion, the shaving head could have been movable. This would have made the shave even more smooth. Considering the price range, that's a feature you might have expected. Another advantage of Braun shavers is their ease of use. Unlike rotary shavers, you don't have to get used to a special shaving technique. Instead, you can more or less just shave away. You just need to stretch the skin a little and, if possible, work against the direction of growth. There's not much else to consider when using it. Everything works simply and intuitively. Although the precision trimmer attachment was not included in our bundle, we still got ourselves one so that we could test it out for you. As a result, we can say that the trimmer works well and has proven to be useful in everyday life. It's just a shame that it doesn't fold out, as is the case with most Philips appliances, for example. That would definitely have been more convenient. Nevertheless, the attachment system itself is fine. Braun calls it the easy click function, and it is indeed relatively easy and quick to change the attachment with a little practice. Apart from that, it can be said that the Series 5 is generally pleasant to work with. At 173 grams, it is one of the lightest devices we reviewed. The vibration in the handpiece is noticeable, but definitely okay. The blades get lukewarm to warm on the skin after 2 to 2.5 minutes of shaving, which can still be described as pleasant overall. On the other hand, the shaver is one of the loudest devices we reviewed, with a noise level of around 67 decibels. Nevertheless, the noise itself is pleasant. In any case, the shaver sounds much richer or full-bodied than the rather high-pitched devices from Philips. It's also better than the Braun Series 3. The bottom line is that you can definitely live with the noise level. And now, let's see what our colleague Chris has to say. He put the Series 5 to the test for us in everyday use and gathered a lot of experience in the process. Yes, I've been
Wochen
testing
hinweg
dozens of different
zig
razors for
verschiedene
weeks
Rasierer
now
getestet und
and
dabei
came to
vor
one
allem
important
erstmal eine
conclusion.
wichtige Erkenntnis
And this
gewonnen.
basically applies to all
Und
the
das gilt
razors
im
I've
Grunde genommen
tested.
für alle Rasierer, die ich getestet habe,
Namely,
nämlich
don't believe the
glaubt nicht
advertising.
an die Werbung. In der Werbung
The
wird einem
advertising suggests
suggeriert,
that
dass
you
man
basically go over
im
it
Grunde
once and
einmal
all
drüber
the hair
geht
is
und
gone.
alle Haare sind weg. Und
This is
dem ist
simply not
nicht
the
so.
case, regardless of
Und
whether
zwar
you have a
egal, ob
razor for
ihr einen
50
habt
or
für
one for
50
several hundred
Euro
bucks.
oder einen für mehrere hundert. Ja, und was
So what
heißt
exactly
das
does
jetzt
that mean?
genau? Also im Grunde ist es
Basically,
so, dass
there
es
are
zwischen den
differences between the
einzelnen
individual
Rasierern schon
razors in the sense
Unterschiede
of
gibt.
one
So im
shaves a
Sinne
little
von,
better and
der eine
the other
rasiert ein
shaves
bisschen
a little
besser und
worse.
der andere rasiert ein bisschen schlechter.
But they all have
Aber
the same
alle
basic
haben das
problem.
gleiche
That
Grundproblem.
is,
Das
that they
heißt,
do
die
shave,
rasieren zwar,
but in certain
aber an
places,
bestimmten
such as the
Stellen, wie zum
neck, a
Beispiel am
few hair
Hals,
may
da
remain.
bleiben dann doch mal ein paar Haare stehen. Von
I
daher
would
würde ich euch
therefore
empfehlen,
recommend,
und das
and this
gilt
applies to
für
all
alle
devices,
Geräte,
shave
rasiert
at
euch in
relatively
relativ
short
kurzen
intervals.
Intervallen.
In other
Also
words,
sprich
every
täglich
day or at
oder
least every
zumindest
2
alle
days.
2 Tage. Und
And
wenn
if
ihr
you
das nicht
can't or
tun
don't want to
wollt,
do this, then
dann
pre-trim
trimmt die
your beard
Bar
at least
zumindest
once and
einmal
then
vor
just do
und
the
macht dann
finishing
im
touches with
Endeffekt
the
mit dem
razor.
Rasierer nur noch den Feinschliff. So, kommen wir
So let's
ganz
get down to the
konkret zur
Braun
Braun
Series 5 and
Series
I'll go through
5.
the
Ich
points
gehe
with
die
you.
Punkte einmal mit euch durch.
First
Erster
point,
Punkt,
the
die
blades feel
Klingen
super
fühlen sich
comfortable
auf
on the
der Haut
skin. You
super
could
angenehm
definitely
an.
say that.
So viel kann man
To
auf
put the
jeden
whole
Fall
thing into
sagen.
perspective,
Man muss es ein
I
bisschen
personally think
einordnen.
that
Die
the Philips
Philips-Geräte
devices do a
machen das
slightly
aus
better
meiner
job
Sicht ein
across the
bisschen
board,
besser,
but
aber
on its
das hier
own,
ist
this
auf
is
jeden Fall
definitely a good
zufriedenstellend.
performance.
Zweiter
My
Punkt.
second
Ihr
point is
seht
that you can
schon,
see
um
that the
die
whole
Klinge
thing
herum
is a
ist
bit
das Ganze
protruding
hier so
around the
ein bisschen
blade,
ausfällig gebaut.
which means that
Und
when I
das
want to
sorgt dafür,
shave,
dass wenn
I
ich mich
can't really
jetzt
see where I
rasiere
am.
vorm Spiegel, ich nicht so genau sehen kann, wo ich gerade
That's a bit
bin.
of a shame,
Und ja, das ist
but
natürlich nicht so
in the
schön,
end,
im
it's
Endeffekt
not
aber
the end
auch
of the
nur ein
world.
Abzug in der B-Note.
The
Punkt
third
3
point is
ist
the
das
feeling of
Sicherheitsgefühl
safety,
und das
and
ist
this
aus
is
meiner
definitely
Sicht
very
bei
good with
diesem
this
Gerät
device.
sehr
At least
gut.
I didn't
Ich
have the
hatte zu
feeling
keinem
that I could
Zeitpunkt das
cut
Gefühl,
myself
dass ich
with
mich
it, and
damit
there was
irgendwie
no
schneiden
tugging
könnte
or
und
anything
auch
else
gepiept
either.
hat da nichts.
So
Also
there's definitely
deswegen
nothing to
ist da auf
complain
jeden
about.
Fall nichts zu meckern.
As
Was
far as skin irritation is
Hautirritation
concerned,
angeht,
however,
muss man hier allerdings
you
ein
do have
bisschen
to make a few
Abstriche machen.
compromises. Don't
Versteht
get
mich
me
jetzt nicht
wrong,
falsch,
this
ich gehe da
appliance
nicht
is still
einmal
pretty
drüber und
good.
alles ist
That's not
rot,
what
so
I
ist das
meant.
jetzt nicht gemeint.
But
Aber die
Philips appliances
Philips-Geräte
seem to
machen
do it a
das
bit better
besser.
still.
Und
I
ich
would
hätte
have at
bei
least
diesem Gerät
expected this appliance
erwartet,
to
dass
be
er
at least as
zumindest ein
good as
bisschen
its
besser
little
macht
brother.
als sein kleiner
In this case,
Bruder.
that would be
Also
the
der in
Series
dem
3,
Fall die
which
Series 3.
unfortunately isn't the case, and
Und
I
dem
think
ist
that's a
leider
bit of a
nicht so
shame.
und das finde ich tatsächlich ein bisschen schade. Auch was das
I would also have hoped for a
Rasierergebnis
bit
angeht,
more
hätte ich
from the
mir von
Series
der
5 in terms
Series
of the
5
shaving
tatsächlich ein
results.
bisschen mehr erhofft.
While it
Nicht
does its
falsch
job in the end
verstehen,
and
das
shaves
heißt
just
nicht, dass
fine,
er
you
nicht
still have to
rasiert.
put it into
Ne?
perspective.
Ich bin der
I think that
Meinung,
the
dass die
Braun
Braun
Series 5
Series
should be better
5
than the Series
besser
3,
sein müsste als die Braun Series 3. Das habe ich
but
aber
I didn't
so
get
in
that
meinen
impression in my
Tests nicht
test.
erlebt. Ich hatte das
I had the
Gefühl, dass die
feeling
eher
that they
so
were
auf
more or less
einem
on the
Niveau
same
sind.
level.
Und das finde
I
ich ein
think that's
bisschen
a bit of a
schade.
shame.
Das sollte
They
sich
should
ein
be more
bisschen besser
clearly
umsetzen.
differentiated.
Wie
How
war die
about wet
Nassrasur?
shaving?
Ja, das ist jetzt wieder so ein
Yes,
Punkt,
that's
den
another
ich
point
sag
that
mal,
I can answer across all
gerätübergreifend
devices
beantworten
because I
kann,
don't think there were any major
weil es da aus
differences
meiner
between the
Sicht
individual
gar nicht
shavers.
so große Unterschiede zwischen den einzelnen Rasierern gab. Was ich dazu
What I
sagen
can
kann,
say
ist,
is,
ja,
yes,
kann
you
man
can do it
machen
and yes, it
und ja,
works.
funktioniert auch. Aber
But
man
you
muss sich
also have
auch
to ask
fragen,
yourself,
macht das
does it
denn
make any
überhaupt
sense at
Sinn?
all?
Und das
And
ist
that's
eben
the
das
big
große
question
Aber
in
an
my
der ganzen
opinion.
Geschichte.
Personally, I
Ich
think that
persönlich bin
if
der
I'm going to put
Meinung,
some shaving
wenn
cream on
ich
my
mir
face
jetzt da
anyway,
schon
then
irgend so einen
I might
Schaum
as
ins
well use a
Gesicht
wet
schmiere,
razor and end up with a
dann
better
kann ich auch
result than
gleich
with
einen
an electric
Nassrasierer
one.
nehmen und habe dann im Endeffekt auch direkt ein besseres Ergebnis als mit einem Elektrorasierer. Einen Vorteil hat das
However,
Ganze
there
dennoch,
is an
und zwar
advantage
für
for
all
all those who like
diejenigen,
to
die sich
shave in the
gern unter der
shower.
Dusche rasieren wollen.
You
Und
don't cut
zwar
yourself as
schneidet
quickly.
man sich damit
I
nicht
don't
so
want to
schnell.
give the impression
Ich
that you
möchte jetzt
can't
nicht
cut
den
yourself
Eindruck
with it,
vermitteln, dass man
but
sich
not as
damit
quickly
gar
as
nicht
with a wet
schneiden
razor.
kann, aber eben nicht so
Of
schnell wie
course,
mit so einem
this is especially
Nassrasierer.
advantageous
Und
when you're
das
shaving
ist
in the
natürlich
shower
gerade
and
dann
don't have a
cool,
mirror
wenn man unter
available.
der Dusche steht und keinen Spiegel zur Verfügung hat.
And as a reminder, you can find the link to the product in the description below the video. And if the video was helpful to you, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. To ensure that the shaver can do its job for as long as possible, it is of course important to clean it regularly. To do this, simply pull off the shaving head and then carefully tap it out. You can then put the shaving head back on and rinse it under running water while the appliance appliance is running. Basically, this is all easy and no problem. Another special feature of this appliance is the quick cleaning function for in-between uses. The so-called easy clean opening is used for this. This means that the shaver head leaves an opening at the top so that it can be rinsed out without having to remove the shaving part. Let's move on to the blades, and as is the case with blades, they will eventually become blunt. As already mentioned, there is a replacement indicator to keep track of this. If this is activated, the blade system should be changed. The blades usually last between 1 and 2 years. Let's come to the conclusion. With the standard set of the Braun Series 5, you get a shaver in the affordable to mid-price range, which does justice to this classification in most regards. A mains operation and an integrated trimmer would have been nice, and the slightly protruding shaving head sometimes blocks the view a little. Apart from that, however, the performance is good for a foil shaver, and we think that it was still okay in terms of skin irritation. Otherwise, it feels pleasant on the skin, and the features and scope of delivery are, in our opinion, appropriate for this price range. In our opinion, the shaving result could have been a bit better. It should have been more differentiated from the Series 3. Instead, you can expect a leap in performance from the Series 7 onwards. You can still get your hair shaven with the Series 5, of course, but we would have expected a little more in the end. Nevertheless, this is a good shaver, and we can also say that the price and performance ratio seems fair, so you can't really go wrong with this device. However, if you're prepared to spend a little more money, you should perhaps take a look at the Series 7.
So,
So,
diesen
we
Rasierer
checked
habe ich
out
für
the
heute
shaver for you.
gecheckt. Wenn euch
If
das
you're
Produkt
interested in the
interessiert, dann schaut
product,
mal
take a look
unter
at
dem
the
Video in die
description below the
Beschreibung. Dort
video.
haben wir es für
You'll
euch
find all
verlinkt.
the links there.
Ansonsten bleibt gerne noch mal
Otherwise,
kurz
stay
dran,
tuned.
denn in der
Our
Endcard
end
haben
card
wir
will
noch ein
provide
paar
a few
interessante
interesting
Videos
suggestions for
versteckt.
you.